Hi, this is Corey Johnston, and today I'm going to be dissecting or analyzing the lyrics of the song Church Clothes by Lecrea. And I don't have the technological resources, let alone resourcefulness, to duplicate the video. I'm certainly not going to sing the lyrics. So what you should do is, if you're on YouTube, type in Lecrea Church Clothes, or if you're following this on Facebook, I'll put it in the commentary box. So what I want you to do is listen to this song first, then listen to this video, then listen to the song again. My aim is to enhance the understanding, because the fact is, a lot of people don't have the disciplined listening skills which hip-hop requires, and in some sense, hip-hop is arguably the most intellectually stimulating of musical genres. Now, when I say rapper, the odds are that the image you conjure in your head is that of the degenerate hooligan fabricating fiction at the lowest intellectual denominator on the radio. And this is unfortunate because the market for lies is much more lucrative than truth. But there is, in fact, much righteous potential for hip-hop, and we should affirm it, uphold it, and spread it. So, as I said, I'm going to be... I'm not a singer. I'm not a technological whiz, so I'm doing the best with what I have. So I'm just going to read the lyrics and add my interpretation for each line. So the opening verse reads, R.I.P. to Medgar Evers, R.I.P. to Dr. King. I ain't trying to hate on my own kind, but Al and Jesse don't speak for me. So this is a commentary on the decline in leadership in the Black Christian community. Now, to be clear, there are literally thousands of outstanding African American pastors and literally millions. You don't have to be in a position of spiritual authority to be a positive role model or a good example that black people can look to, and white people in their community. But the fact is that there has been a decline in that in the Christian communities, the two most publicly prominent figures are Al, being Al Sharpton, and Jesse, being Jesse Jackson. And it's really a sharp decline from the days when Dr. King set this standard. I can say without fear of any error that the Almighty wielded miracles through that man. But Al and Jesse are really ever remember the sermon either of them preached about grace, love, peace, or salvation? Me either. These people are one-trick ponies. They're race-baiting, race hustlers, and the gospel. Now, there's a difference between the equality, which Dr. King fought for, and that's wholly commensurate with the gospel and the Christian ethos. But Al and Jesse are about revenge, and there's no place for vengeance in the Christian life. And the truth is that the race hustlers and social justice warriors, they really don't want to eliminate racism because then they'd be out of jobs. So these people are comparable to addicts who are addicted to whines and complaints. They're forever seeking new grievances to exploit and fan the flames of and ultimately get rich off of. But like I said, you don't have to look at the top. Think locally, act globally, to reduce it to a bumper stick slogan. So there's no shortage of positive African American Christians, but these two are not them. And of course, as a black person, Lecrea has a maybe different outlook than I do, so he's not trying to disown his own people, but he's saying Al and Jesse don't speak for me. And why is that? Because Lecrea is an authentic Christian, and these two are not. I'm probably gonna catch some flack, man, but I'm gonna swallow this pill like Pac-Man. Some of these folks won't tell the truth. Too busy trying to get them racks, man. So at this point, at this juncture in the song, he assumes the narrative assumes the position of the skeptic. So he's not endorsing the subsequent lines, but he's empathizing with how a skeptic might see the church, and he ultimately dismantles it, as we're going to read. Now, Pac-Man was a video game whereby you swallow similarly looking creatures and trying to get them racks, man. Racks is slang for money, so that's what Al and Jesse, for example, are all about. And the fact is that the prosperity gospel, alongside the social justice warrior Christians, are among the most detestable and dangerous breeds of heretics. Now, social justice is certainly part of the Christian faith, but when we emphasize it to the exclusion of all other, we limit the gospel, which is really, really much more than one-dimensional. And like I said, they're not about equality, they're about vengeance. Church trying to rob my paycheck. Choir members probably having gay sex. Pastor manipulating, hurting women. I wonder what he's going to say next. So the common complaint about the church, I think the comedian George Carlin may have had a point in that he says that all religion is all about this all-powerful God who constantly needs money. And that's unfortunate because the church is often ran like a business and they treat the congregants like a customer rather than a patient. We're offering spiritual healing, and we're not trying to treat them like customers, but the fact is many churches are filled with business-minded people, and the people who sing in the choir may or may not be having gay sex. That's just, in other words, he's saying they're committing a sin that they don't see when they're singing. And pastor manipulating now, like I said, lies in hip-hop, as in the gospel, unfortunately, lies are a highly lucrative commodity, whereas truth goes a-begging. Bookstores pimping them hope books, like God don't know how broke looks. They telling me I'm gonna reap a meal if I sow into these low crooks. So the market for the self-esteem Christian really it started with Norman Vincent Peale, who did The Power of Positive Thinking, and since then he was more or less contemporaneous with Dr. King. There's been a similar state of decline in that genre. Now it's Joel Osteen sets the standard of this age. And hope books and like God don't know how broke looks. Now man looks with the eyes, but Yahweh measures the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7 and Proverbs 21:2 and 16:2, I believe. And so you shouldn't let the fact if you can't afford nice clothes to go to church prevent you from going there. You're not going to be judged, or you shouldn't be judged, because ultimately they look at the heart. And so into these low crooks now, the masters' comfort with the people that society was uncomfortable with is a test of our comfort, because the fact is ministry is most needed amongst the spiritually sick people. To edify the flock is all well and good, but this faith is never more than one generation away from extinction. And like any other organism, it must grow to survive and flourish. And the way we do that is to reaching out to the outcast and lowliest. You never give up. There's always the slightest opening that we can make with these people. Plus, I know homegirl a freak. Now, how's she singing a solo? I walk in the church with a snapback, and they're telling me that's a no-no. Now, freak is a slang term for sexually promiscuous or experimental person, and he knows this girl singing in the choir, singing a solo, who's quite different when she's not in church. And a snapback, now in the video he puts a backwards hat on his head. And now a lot of churches, they don't have mandatory dress codes, but they have expected dress codes. And no church should kick out anyone for what they're wearing that's not really causing a disturbance, but a lot of churches may in fact do. That's backwards, and I lack words for these actors called pastors. All these folks is hypocrites, and that's why I ain't at church. So he's seeing a discrepancy between the way that the preacher walks and the way that the preacher talks. If our actions aren't consistent with our rhetoric, then skeptics and outsiders are going to have their pretext for discrediting us and not joining. So we ultimately lose a soul. Now, people from the outside are forever looking to discredit us, and one of the ways they do it is by pointing at the inconsistencies between the way we preach and the way we practice our religion. So that's something we must always be mindful and guarded of. Now, to be a hypocrite is not the end of the world. I've said it before, that I'm a Christian not in spite of the fact that I'm a hypocrite. I'm a Christian because I'm a hypocrite. Christian is anyone humble enough to know that they are a sinner and they cannot save themselves. So don't encourage the hypocritical impression, but don't deny it either. Truthfully, I'm just doing me, and I don't want to face no scrutiny. As long as the church keeps wilding out, I can justify all my foolish deeds. So he's embracing the individualist ethos, which is rampant in our culture, and he's using the church's wiling out, that's slang for acting inappropriately, as his pretext to justify all his foolish deeds. So when the church sets a poor example, that trickles down not only to the church itself, but the outside the church. Smoking weed, pouring up, keep that lean up in my cup. Maybe I can change the world, but this porn on my laptop got me stuck. So this is drugs and alcohol, and porn is one of, now, in this day and age, you don't have to go looking for trouble. Trouble will find you, and one of the easiest ways it does that is your every sexual fantasy, and even ones you didn't know about, are never more than a click away on the internet. But if you are tempted, don't look at porn. Keep looking here. Don't stop. I hope I didn't trigger any ill thoughts in your heads. Yeah, I know what's right from wrong, but that there ain't gonna sell a song. I'd rather sell my soul than save it, if that's what make my money long. So there's an intellectual affirmation of morality is foundational, but it's not enough, because we know and approve of the right course, but often follow the wrong. And that's where reasoning can be perverted reasoning can betray us. And he's acknowledging the fact that what he's selling, truth, is not marketable a commodity as lies. And sell my soul, then save it. So he's assuming, remember, the position of the skeptic, and he's noting that it financially it makes more sense to sell the soul than save it, but it's ultimately a poor investment. And I think I can paraphrase Lecrea. He said, if this life is all there is, then all I have is wasted. If there's more, then if there's an afterlife, then you've wasted eternity. It better not be no real God, real hope that heals heart. It shows me that I ain't living up to all these things that he put me here for. Now that actually rhymes. You never know it by listening to me, but like I said, definitely see the video. So he's hoping and praying that this God that they speak of and proclaim is a figment of their imagination, an illusion. And he doesn't want real hope that heals heart, even though he needs it, because that way he can have an excuse to keep living the way he's living and doing the things that he's doing. And all these things that he put me here for, now there is a purpose and a plan for every person in life. You have a purpose, and that purpose can only come from one whose purpose is greater than ours. And our purpose in life is to lay hold of that purpose. But we have to eliminate the selfish old nature in order to grasp that which is preordained, which we were designed to fulfill. Every single person has a gift in one form or another. And everyone has it. Now, many are called, but few are chosen. And that's because a lot of people now, the Father, more often than not, he issues in the form of the commandment. And the things that he commands us are often are rarely easy to do. And he doesn't advise us or persuade us. He issues it in a command. And where it may not make sense at the moment, but you have to follow that voice, and it will never betray you. It better not be no real folks who don't think that they better than you, straight or gay, drunk or high, they walk through the cold weather with you. So there is such a thing as a spiritual superiority complex, and there is nothing more ugly than religious pride, and no one is immune to it. Now, the further we advance into the faith, the more we run the risk of being self-righteous, and that's to rely on ourselves. And walk in the cold weather with you, now, that's just analogy for the trials and tribulations of life. And even if they're drunk or high or gay, and they walk through the cold weather with you, they're ultimately more useful than one who is a professed Christian and abandons you to the wayside. No, we don't want to see that, because that might mean a life change. That might mean I'm worth more than money, cars, sex, and pipe dreams. So he's wanting... now, the great question, is Christianity true? And a lot of people wish it weren't. because they resist change, and it demands change in a full-scale reformation and repentance at the foot of the cross. So when you become rationally convinced that this is in fact the truth, you have to change everything or you gain nothing. And the things, the money, cars, sex, and pipe dreams are ultimately, all of the aforementioned items fall into the general category of pipe dreams. These are the fleeting and fragile illusions of the world which passes. Better not be no real Jesus, real forgiveness for hurt folks. If God don't take me as I am, I guess I already got on my church clothes. So again, he doesn't want Jesus, and more significantly what he can offer, forgiveness. And he transitions to, he's still speaking from the language of the skeptic, and he transitions to the line of the sincere believer. So he's saying that the mark of a Christian is never the clothing. Now you may be looking at me and saying, oh, you're wearing a suit and tie, that means you're not a Christian. Well, I do it because, one, respect for the craft, two, my conscience is clean because everything I tell you I live consistently with. And if you think that a suit and tie somehow makes me a less authentic Christian, then you're basically in error. So, but I don't rely on the church clothes. I do try and keep it respectful, and do attend the every service and every lesson I give in my Sunday best. But ultimately, walking through that's looking at the eyes of sight, but the eyes of faith are what truly, truly counts. And thank you so much. Tune in next time. Bye-bye.